Skates on the canal here in Ottawa, Canadian flags in the stands in Florida, and trade negotiators quietly getting into position in Washington. And later in the brief, the one decision in this year's CUSMA review that could ripple into jobs and prices here at home. Ottawa starts today cloudy and cold, around -2 degrees Celsius, with snow expected later today. If you're planning to be out this evening, it's the kind of snowfall that turns sidewalks slick fast. Give yourself a little extra time. If you're looking for something close to home this weekend, the full Rideau Canal Skateway is open, all 7.8 kilometers between Rideau and Dow's Lake. And there's also the Ottawa Boat and Outdoor Show at the EY Centre through Sunday. Hockey-wise, the 67s are home tonight and again Sunday afternoon, and the Senators are hosting their skills competition Sunday at 1. One quick safety note while we're on winter plans. Police across Ontario are reminding people that warming spells make ice unpredictable. Even when it looks solid, conditions can change quickly near docks, moving water, and narrow channels. Turning now to the bigger national picture. Canada is getting ready for a high-stakes trade conversation with the U.S., and the preparations are already reshaping Ottawa's diplomatic and political lineup. The federal government has named Janice Charette as Canada's chief trade negotiator to the United States, ahead of this year's scheduled review of the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, CUSMA. She'll also advise the Prime Minister and the Canada-U.S. Trade Minister, Dominic LeBlanc. At the same time, Mark Wiseman has been named Canada's next ambassador to Washington, and the previous ambassador stepped aside as the file ramps up. Here's the key point. This isn't a routine check-in review. It lands in a climate where U.S. tariff threats and unilateral moves are openly part of the conversation, and Canada and Mexico are signaling they want to hold the agreement together as a three-country pact, not a set of separate deals. Why does that matter locally? For Ottawa, trade policy can feel abstract until it touches federal procurement, manufacturing supply chains, and household costs. Even if you never export a thing, tariffs and rules of origin changes can move the price of vehicles, building materials, and consumer goods, and they can also change which firms win cross-border contracts. Canada and Mexico are leaning into coordination. LeBlanc has been leading a large trade mission to Mexico, more than 370 delegates, with both countries emphasizing they want a successful review and lower sector-specific tariffs. The risk here is timing and leverage. A scheduled review creates a deadline, and deadlines tend to concentrate pressure. What to watch is whether the U.S. treats the review as a technical update, or as a chance to reopen core terms. If it's the second, expect tougher asks, more uncertainty for businesses, and louder domestic politics on all sides. A quick mid-brief thread that connects to that same uncertainty. And airlines are responding. New numbers out of Montreal show tourism rebounded in 2025. 11.8 million visitors, up just over 7%. The growth was driven largely by Canadians traveling within Canada. Domestic visits were up around 10%. And by overseas visitors, especially from France, which hit a record 470,000. Visits from the United States, though, dipped about 5%, and this pattern shows up in airline schedules. With fewer Canadians traveling to the U.S., carriers have been trimming U.S. service. Air Transat has canceled certain U.S. flights, and WestJet has reduced capacity on some routes. Later in the brief, that becomes a useful signal. When demand softens, transportation networks adjust first, and those adjustments can linger even if travel demand bounces back. Canada's women's hockey team has taken silver after losing 2-1 in overtime to the United States in the Olympic gold medal game in Milan Cortina. Canada scored first on a shorthanded goal, the U.S. tied it late, and the overtime winner came a little over 4 minutes into extra time. It was another tight chapter in a rivalry that keeps raising the sport's profile, even when the result stings. And on the baseball side, even as overall Canadian travel to the U.S. cools, Blue Jays spring training in Dunedin, Florida is still pulling Canadian fans. And local businesses there say those crowds matter to their bottom line. Now, back to Ottawa, and the longer-term pressure that's building steadily in the background. A new city-commissioned projection says Ottawa's population could grow from about 1.15 million in 2024 to roughly 1.7 million by 2051, about 530,000 more people. The main driver is expected to be immigration, with natural population growth contributing less as the city ages. At the same time, a counselor is warning that return-to-office mandates, both federal and municipal, could strain an already fragile transportation system if reliability and capacity don't improve. The federal timeline to watch: executives returning on site 5 days a week starting May 4th, and many other federal employees required in office at least 4 days a week starting July 6th. Here's why that matters locally. Growth planning is slow, commuting changes can be fast. When commuting patterns shift suddenly, the pinch points show up in the same places: buses that bunch, trains that lag, and roads that clog at predictable hours. The final piece to watch today is that CUSMA review calendar. Canada has put experienced hands on the file. Mexico is signaling alignment. And the question is how the U.S. chooses to use the review. Tighten terms, maintain stability, or press for leverage. That's the shape of the day. Light snow in Ottawa, a busy weekend on the canal, and a trade countdown that could quietly set the tone for costs and confidence through the year.